Hi there, Tackler. Welcome to Disney Deep Dive, where each week we dive into the history, story, and details of the Disney parks. I'm Leah.
And I'm Stefan.
Uh-oh.
What's going on here?
This is Haley. She's been on my channel several times and in our vlogs, on which we have linked in the description box. But Haley really wanted to be a little part of it tonight, huh?
Yes.
Yes. So tell everyone hi.
Hello.
All right. Love you. Go bed, okay?
Okay.
Or hang out at least. Okay,
Hello.
love you. Farewell. We'll have a good deep dive. Love you. All right. So
Leave for a few weeks and replace me.
I know, but she's so cute. I think she'll get those views, you know?
Ridiculous.
Yeah. So we're a couple minutes late. We apologize for that. If I'm going to be honest, I was scarfing down sweet potato fries and a sandwich, and Stefan was getting the boys to bed. So, you know,
Happy
it is
New
what it is.
Year.
Happy New Year. It's 2020, and this is our 21st episode.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah, really, really cool. Give us a thumbs up if you have watched us before. Give us a thumbs up if you think that you're going to watch the other ones. I will link it. There is a playlist so you can binge watch, or a few people have told us that they'll put it down, which I do this with some videos, and they listen to us podcast style, because I know you want to look at us, but if you don't, obviously this works as a podcast. We're not really showing anything typically, so.
They should make it as a podcast.
It would be a cool podcast. Yeah, let us know. We have quite a few friends who are podcasters, so yeah, maybe someday. All right, so if you are new, every week we dive, as I said, into the history or all the details of a ride, an attraction, a parade, a party, something at the Disney parks. And today we are talking all about Splash Mountain.
Splash. Yeah. So we're talking Splash Mountain. Now, as usual, we will talk about our personal experience with the ride and then move on from there. So, personal experience.
Personal experience.
You never been on it?
No.
Oh, really?
Never.
Oh. Weird.
No. So the first time I went to the parks, I had just, I think right before this, gone on a roller coaster with my dad. It was an old wooden roller coaster, and that scared me from those kind of rides. I know this isn't a roller coaster, but besides the point. And I would have had no one to go on the ride with anyways, because my mother doesn't like those kind of rides. My little brother was, well, he could have probably gone, but he was pretty little. And then my dad was more scared than I was on this wooden roller coaster, so I didn't have anyone to go on it with me. The next time I went, I don't know why I didn't go on it. I think we did go to, I don't know. I would have been in high school, didn't go on it. And then I've only other been a couple times with you. Kids were babies. Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't take the kids on it because they were just too little. I've been on it multiple times.
Yeah.
So
I just shocked stuff. It's something you never knew about me that we just told the whole world.
I just assumed that you had been on it.
Well, I know. It's kind of crazy that I haven't.
You're going to kill my thesis, but that's okay.
I read it. It's okay. It's fine.
I've been on it multiple times as a little kid and then as a slightly older kid. And I always really enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. It's one of those iconic Disney rides that's just, when you think of Disneyland, Disney World, you think of Splash Mountain. It's just one of those things. I've been on it and I enjoyed it and it was fun.
Yeah. Oh, okay. My mother just hopped into the live chat. We will be going, this is live, so if you're watching us live, we'll hop over to the live chat. If you're watching the replay, we will read what we are seeing in the live chat so that you know what is going on. And my mother just said Happy New Year, so Happy New Year, Mom. Love you. And maybe you can tell everyone why your daughter was so deprived and never went on Splash Mountain.
Aha!
One of the many things, huh? One of the many.
Sick child burn. Or is it a parent burn?
Parent burn? I don't know. She knows. I am going to be looking at my phone for a minute because I'm going to share out this video. And so, Stefan, you kick us off and then I'll hop in.
I'll be getting us started. So, Splash Mountain, if you don't know, is a log flume dark ride. Log flume / dark ride. Based on the characters, stories, and songs from the 1946 Disney film Song of the South.
Yes.
So that's a quick sum up. Where do we start? Where do we begin this story? The story of Splash Mountain starts with a little trouble in Bear Country. Bear Country was a part of Disneyland. It opened in March 1972 because of the popularity of a similar attraction at Disney World. So they had, the Country Bear I think it was
Jamboree.
Country Bear Jamboree at Disney World. It might have been named something different. I think they had the same thing though. And because it was popular, they opened a whole section of the park and called it Bear Country and said, "Here you go."
Yep.
It had the Country Bear Jamboree, Davy Crockett's Explorer canoes, which were originally it was like a Native American thing where they had like a whole like Native American like setup where there was an area where you could go and see like actual like they employed actual like Native Americans to make
It's pretty neat.
souvenir type things at the little trading post, and they would show like it was like an educational thing, like a lot of Frontierland was at the time. It was supposed to be educational and informative and telling people about life in America.
Yeah, and
before
cultures.
industrialization.
Yes.
Yeah. So it was a lot of that. But then into the 70s, everything changed and they started updating things. Davy Crockett's Explorer canoes used to be, I don't remember what the name was. I heard it too, but I didn't write it down. But they were some sort of like Native American driven canoe ride. And they're still there today, actually. So that's kind of cool. But the whole place was themed out to look like a Pacific Northwest forest. Think like big trees, lots of greenery and whatnot. And it was like mixed with a rustic town type of setting. It wasn't really like an old West town, just like an old town. So there was some stuff there, but there weren't any real attractions. There was the canoes, there was the jamboree. That's really it.
So, as you can imagine, after some time and people had seen these things, done these things, were over these things, people weren't really hanging out there.
Yeah. So this area of the park, more often than not, had the lowest attendance of all the lands. And as time went on, it only got worse. Just people weren't going there. It was basically dead. If you wanted to go someplace and not see anyone else, you would go there.
Yeah.
And the Country Bear Jamboree had more animatronics than people in the building most times. So
there's a lot of animatronics though, which we're going to get into, but still.
So there's a problem. We need to get people here. Flash forward to 1983. Zoom. Dick Nunes, who was president.
Finally got that shirt out. There we go.
There you go. Who was president of the Outdoor Recreation Division at the time. We've mentioned him before in past episodes. Thought a log flume style ride would be a great way to keep guests cool in the summer, as well as draw more of a crowd to Bear Country. He was looking to bring in more like water type rides because California's hot. Or so I've heard. I've never been there, so I don't know.
Me either. We always talk about Disney World from personal experience and then lots and lots of research poured into Disneyland. But this one is Disney World and Disneyland, which we're going to get into.
So apparently it's warm there. And they wanted to cool people off. So they wanted more water rides. Dick Nunes said, hey, log flume. Imagineers hated the idea. Why? Because log flumes at the time, if you've never been on one, it's kind of like, why would they not like this? Of course they can make it fun. Mm-hmm. Before, well, I guess after Splash Mountain, because I went on Splash Mountain when I was like a kid, but after that, I went on a log flume ride at Cedar Point. And this...
Oh, I've been on that ride. Yeah.
This is how log flume rides usually are. You wait in line, you walk up a lot of stairs, you get to the top of the stairs, you get in a log-shaped boat, or just...
It's not really a ride, it's a...
Yeah, it's a slide. Think of it as a slide, because that's what it is. It's a giant slide that you sit in with a few people, and you go down, you get wet, and then you get off. And that's
Cedar
it.
Point's credit, which is in Ohio. We're Midwesterners, and I like that ride, but it's fun.
But Imagineers hated it, because they were like, no, it's too boring, it's too... Like, it would take a lot to make this an interesting ride. It doesn't belong in Disneyland, so we shouldn't do this.
This is what the Imagineers are saying in 83.
83, yeah.
Yes.
They were like, yeah, okay, we know you want this, but come on, like, give us
give us
something
more.
else.
Yeah, give us a little more.
Like, we can't. It's going to be hard to Disneyfy this.
Yeah.
So, the man who eventually came up with the idea to make the log flume work at Disneyland was Tony Baxter.
We mention him almost every episode.
Yeah, Disney legend, Imagineer, part of the second generation of Imagineers. Worked closely with the first generation of Imagineers,
Yes.
Specifically Mark Davis, and is just an all-around amazing person.
And there's great stories about Tony Baxter too. Like some of them, they'll just mention their name when you're doing the research, but he always has like fun stories, which makes me think, I'm like, ooh, I like you, Tony Baxter. I am going to hop over to the live chat because we have a cast member from Disney's Animal Kingdom. Oh, it says you're buffering. Oh, I hope it comes in for you. Let us know. Thank you for commenting that. I appreciate it. Usually we have a pretty good connection, but if we don't, always let us know if you're watching live.
Today our internet has been weird.
It has been weird. We both work from home and things were loading slowly today. So, yeah. But thank you so much for joining. We really appreciate it, and we'll be interested to hear your thoughts on Splash Mountain also.
Yes. So, Tony Baxter, responsible for the entire idea, basically. Obviously, a lot of people went into making this a thing, but he's the one who came up with the initial concept. So, as the story goes, Tony was sitting in rush hour traffic on his way to work to be an Imagineer. I imagine just zoning out, because what else do you do in rush hour traffic? We don't have that here, but I imagine you wouldn't do anything else other than just like think about stuff.
Yes, you're in a parking lot.
And he was suddenly struck with inspiration. While thinking about the log flume concept, he also started thinking about how they were planning on closing down the America Sings attraction pretty soon. America Sings, if you don't know, we mentioned this before, but America Sings was like this animatronic show where it was a bunch of like birds and animals, and
it was when it came out, it was really neat because animatronics were people were fascinated by them. They were amazed by them, and to have so many, which stuff we'll get into, but there were so many in one attraction, so it was a big deal at the time. But it's something that it got outdated kind of quickly.
Yeah, I think it was a bicentennial thing, maybe. I don't know. Don't quote me on that, but
if you know, let us know.
Don't isolate that sound clip. But they, it was something that was also like waning in popularity. Like people weren't really that into it.
Yeah.
They weren't coming as much, and like I said, they it was kind of like the Country Bear Jamboree. There weren't that many people in there.
Yep.
So America Sings had something like 80 to like 100 animatronics. Oh, there was a fire today in Tomorrowland.
Oh my gosh. Oh, this is so great. So we're in a bunch of Facebook, well, I am especially like the Facebook groups and stuff, and I had not seen that.
That's crazy.
Oh my gosh, that is crazy. And I do social media marketing and management, and I have a few clients who are Disney related and in Orlando, so I need to be updating some stuff. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I hope everyone's okay. Yeah.
That's
scary.
Crazy.
Okay.
But America Sings had a lot of animatronics, 80 to like 100 plus animatronics. And they all worked beautifully, but they weren't drawing the crowd, so they were basically just going to get trashed. Like they were going to close the show down. So what do you do with them? You know.
Well, they do what Disney does best, and we talk about this all the time. They recycle things.
So thinking of a way to use these animatronics. And working it in with a log flume. So basically, Tony's sitting in his car and he's thinking like, oh, log flume, right? Oh, this is closing now. How can we reuse this stuff?
As he's cruising along.
Tony was reminded of the 1946 Disney film Song of the South and how many of those animatronics bore a striking resemblance to a lot of the characters in the background of the film. And they were all designed by Mark Davis. So Mark Davis did all of the character work on Song of the South. He also did all the character design and all that for America Sings, so of course they all look alike. I saw a really cool video with Tony Baxter and one of the other Imagineers. I can't remember his name now, but he was on the same project, and they were talking about how they basically they had cards of all the characters from Song of the South, and then they had cards of all the characters in America Sings, and they would take them and they were matching them up. So that they could be like, okay, we have this one, we have this one, we have this one.
Cool. So
they can see how many they had. And then they had a bunch of leftover characters, which will come in later on as one of our fun facts. But they were able to match a lot of the characters from the movie just with existing animatronics that they had. So it was really cool. Briar Rabbit, which I'm going to say this right now. It's Briar. I always thought it was Briar. Like Briar, like is it a Briar Patch or a Briar Patch?
That's a different spelling. That's because it's Briar Rabbit, Briar Fox, Briar Bear.
My entire life I thought it was Briar, and I've always said Briar Rabbit, Briar Fox, Briar Bear. But apparently it's Briar Rabbit, Briar Fox.
But is that just like a
I have no idea. I was wondering that too, but I didn't get into that, so I don't know. But apparently the spelling is different, and it's written on the sign on the ride, so I should have known.
If you know, let us know.
But these main characters had also been popular characters in the park since opening day. In the like walking around taking pictures with people. So it made sense to incorporate them into the ride because people knew who they were. They were popular, and giving them a space in the park where they could be kind of showcased was a smart move.
Yeah.
So
This
all
is
of this,
an important part. Yeah.
yeah, because all of this kind of answers the question that a lot of people have about the ride, which is why would they make an entire ride about a movie that was so controversial?
Yes.
Because
And this is because they're making this in the 80s. So this is well after, obviously, that movie came out. And, you know, culturally, we're a lot more aware at this point. So,
but even then, it was already like when it came out, it was a controversial movie, and there were a lot. People had a lot of issues with it. So, you know, when people think of Splash Mountain, they think like, why would they make a ride based on that? It doesn't make any sense. Well, there were a lot of reasons. Most of them being that they could incorporate and recycle a lot of used things, and then also bring back some of that old Disney magic, because at this point in time, they weren't really making a lot of rides or attractions based on Disney products, especially like old Disney animated products. There was a lot of new stuff, which we'll get into. So by the time Tony got to work, and this is back when he was thinking about this in the car, by the time he got to work, he had the entire concept worked out in his head, and he spent the next 3 days working with Bruce Gordon and John Stone, creating 30 storyboards and a scale model of the entire ride. They had the whole thing figured out in that amount of time.
yeah. And they dubbed the ride Zippity, like Zippity River, as in Zippity Doo Dah, Zippity A, the song.
Yeah. So it was Zippity River Run.
Zippity River Run.
Obviously named after the song. And so now we're in 1984, and Tony and his team, they have everything figured out. They pitch the idea to the new Walt Disney Company CEO, Michael Eisner. And now we enter a lot of crossover action with our previous episodes. So go watch our previous episodes because there's a lot of stuff crossing paths here.
And it is really fun, especially if you watch and you start kind of paying attention to not only the Imagineers that we mentioned, but also the years, the dates, budget things that were happening. It's cool to go.
So this is the same time when Imagineers were pitching the idea for the epic Indiana Jones project that never happened. The giant, like, taking over, like, basically the entire land and making it like an Indiana Jones land. Go watch our episode on that. We talk about it briefly.
There's a lot of shameless plugs happening, Stefan.
There is, yes, but you have to do the research.
Shameless plug.
But obviously that never happened, and due in part to this ride, because they were pitching this ride at the same time. And as we've said 1,000 times before, Michael Eisner was trying to rejuvenate the parks and the company itself. That's why they brought him in. He was trying to bring in an older demographic, more teenage, not just teenage, but blend in a teenage demographic.
Well, so that it wasn't something where it's, couples at the time, like, say, our age with little kids. It's like, no, you can bring your whole family. You can bring your grandparents. You can bring whoever to the parks, and everyone can have a great time.
And he was trying to save as much money as possible because, like we said, he was trying to bring Disney out of a funk that they were in for a long time, and he had a big job in his hands. So Zippity River Run checked off every one of these boxes that Michael Eisner was looking for, and he loved the idea, but he hated the name.
I totally agree with this. I think Zippity Run, he didn't like it because it didn't sound like something teenagers and older people would like. Zippity River Run sounds like a kid ride, like a little kid ride.
Yeah, he thought it would detract from the demographic he was looking for. He thought it would keep people away from it, and he wanted to change it.
I mean, think about it. If you're like, oh yeah, let's go on Splash Mountain. Like, that sounds like an adventure. Zippity. Cute, but not an adventure.
And to be fair too, it doesn't really represent what the ride is, because it doesn't give it the epicness of what it is when you just say, like, yeah, go on the river run. It sounds like a lazy river boat ride.
Yes.
Really. So it wasn't a good representation.
Sounds like something Kathy, my mom, who's watching, would like.
So I like this change here, but this is also where things get a little weird, because Eisner insisted they name the ride Splash Mountain, which, yeah, cool, good idea. Which makes sense. There were already like several other mountain-themed attractions. You had Space Mountain, you had the Matterhorn. Was Big Thunder Mountain around yet? I can't remember. Should look that up. Anyway, you had other mountain-themed attractions at the parks, and it was a ride where you got splashed with water, so Splash Mountain makes sense. Eisner's reasoning for this name, though, was to help promote the recently released Disney production, Splash.
This part is so weird. Okay.
Which, if you've never seen Splash, which I don't blame you.
Yeah. Big Thunder Mountain Railroad opened 79.
Okay, yeah, so there were other mountains. So Splash is a Tom Hanks vehicle where Tom Hanks falls in love with a mermaid.
Yeah, if you're, I mean, I feel like we are like the younger generation, like the younger ones to have seen that. If you're any younger than us, you've probably not seen this movie.
Yeah, on a personal note, I hated this movie. It was one of those movies that was like on like TBS or USA or something. Like for like a stretch of time, it was just always on, or maybe AMC, whatever. It was on a lot.
Let's say it this way: I've never been on Splash Mountain, but I've seen Splash.
Yeah, so I remember seeing the movie. I didn't know about this connection, but I saw the movie and I did not like it.
Basically zero.
I mean, it's like a romantic comedy sort of thing. Like Tom Hanks is great, but I never liked the movie. It's got Eugene Levy in it as the bad guy, which is interesting because he's like forever a good guy, but I don't know. So he wanted to call it Splash Mountain to try and help promote the movie.
Argue your points below.
Which is just kind of crazy. So he also recommended they somehow incorporate a mermaid into the attraction. Now, keep in mind, they already have the Song of the South theme firmly planted in the ride.
So they wanted them to stick a mermaid, like just plant a mermaid for the only, just to make this connection happen.
So crazy that it was like, okay, well, let's make it a splash ride. Like, it was just work a mermaid in there. And how do you do that? You can't do that.
They would have just stuck it in there. That's it.
So thankfully, Imagineers stood firmly against this idea, stating that it would in no way tie into Song of the South theme. And this is just one of my favorite tyrannical CEO tropes that you see in movies a lot, where they, like, the artistic side comes in with an idea, and they're like, yeah, let's try this. I was trying to think of an idea from a movie, but I couldn't. But I know it exists, where they come in, they're like, yeah, we have this great idea, and like, that's fantastic. Let's work in this toothpaste brand to try and sell more toothpaste. That sort of thing.
It's so funny because I'm a marketer and advertising, my major in school, and Stefan's an artist. So it's funny because like I'm totally like, oh yeah, some product placement, and Stefan's like,
quit ruining my vision.
Yeah.
So Splash Mountain got the green light, but due to the construction of other attractions like Captain EO and Star Tours, among other things, it would be 3 years before they actually got started. But they did get started. So in April of 1987, construction began on Splash Mountain. For the show building itself, they opted to build the thing out of concrete rather than steel because it was going to be an enclosed,
filled with water.
Dark ride that was going to be going up and down. There's going to be a lot of moisture, and what does steel do? It rusts, and there's a lot of issues with that. So they decided to go with concrete, which was also a benefit because they could speed up construction, because that's easier to build than a like steel frame construction, which is kind of cool. Traditionally, log flume rides aren't very high capacity rides. Like we said before, you walk up a bunch of stairs, like 4 people get into.
You wait a long time for a short ride.
Yeah, and then you go down, and that's it. And then everyone has to wait for everyone to get out of that ride, before the next one can go down. So not very high capacity. To overcome this obstacle and increase the ride's capacity, because obviously they want to move people through it as fast as they can.
Always a goal. Yes.
Tony Baxter drew inspiration from the log flume ride at Knott's Berry Farm, which we also mentioned in Show Crew? No, it wasn't Jump
No.
Cruise. We mentioned Knott's Berry.
It wasn't Pirates. It was right after we did Pirates, so it was one of our first episodes. Like I would say it was in our first 5 episodes we mentioned it.
Oh man, I wish I could remember. Anyway.
You can go binge our episodes.
So Knott's Berry Farm had a higher capacity ride. So they did a lot of research there, checked it out. So using this knowledge, along with all the roller coaster knowledge that Tony Baxter had, he came up with an idea of how to increase the capacity of this particular ride.
Yep.
So by incorporating several different lift and drop areas, logs in the ride. Imagineers will be able to control the tempo of the logs in the ride, giving them the ability to run several logs through at a time while preventing any chance of a collision. This is a technique they use over and over again in the Matterhorn, every ride, Space Mountain, every ride since. Having lifts and drops allows them to like slow things down, speed things up, and basically run the whole thing by computer so they can get people in and out as fast as possible while not hurting anyone.
Yeah, no collision. And I think this one is fun. So if you are watching live, or if you're not, you can pause it, but we'll pause for a second. Take a guess on how many audio animatronic characters there were to be on this ride, because it is a big number. So just take a guess. We'll give you a second. Post your guess if you're watching live. You can post if you're watching the replay too.
Yes.
No one's posted yet.
Okay. Now go.
103. That's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Okay. On the live, our friend Gigi is watching. Hey Gigi, and she said guessed 500. Okay, I guess I did say big. Not quite that big, but still 103 animatronics is crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a lot, especially in the length of ride it is. So,
yes.
As we said before, many of them were recycled characters from America Sings, but most of the main character animatronics for Briar Fox and Briar Rabbit and Briar Bear were created specifically for the ride. Now there were recycled ones like in the beginning and stuff, but a lot of like I guess you'd call them like hero animatronics, were created specifically for that ride. But the rest of them all recycled, which is pretty cool. When staging of the characters began, though, they were having issues making it flow smoothly and creating like a cohesive show out of it all, which isn't easy because they're looking at the characters like, okay, we have this one, just stick them in there, but it just wasn't working right. So they were trying to get the most out of the resources they had, which is the characters from the other show. And to solve this, they brought on Dave Phaeton. And Dave was the chief animation producer for Walt Disney Imagineering. And his full name is David Crockett Phaeton.
I love that. Fun. Like David Crockett. So cute.
Yeah, so his name is David Crockett. In fact, if you go to his website, his personal website, they refer to him as Davy through the whole thing. Which I was like, why are they calling him Davy? And then they have his full name at the top. And I was like, Davy Crockett. Oh my gosh. So that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
So Dave moved nearly all the animatronics to new locations. He came in and was like, what are you doing? And moved everything around. And he even took 10 of them out because he was like, they don't do anything. They don't really belong here. Remove them. Which greatly improved the show, and it gave us what we know today. He's the one who set... When you go on that ride today, everything you see, he set it up. So he is responsible for it, and they haven't changed it. One other thing, at the very end of the ride, when you see like kind of the final show, when they're all on the... what do you call those things? The paddle boat thing? The big boat.
No, it's not. Yeah.
It's not.
It's not paddle.
The boat
the
with
big
the
ones with the big wheel.
What do you call that? I can't remember. Anyway, though that came about, that whole scene came about because once they were done matching up all the characters they had, like we said, and they had all of these leftover animatronics. They're like, what do we do with these? It was recommended, like, well, let's just put them. We'll have a boat. We'll just stick them all on a boat. And they'll all be dancing and stuff. And there you go. That's your final show. Stick them on a boat. So the final show that everyone loves, that it came from that. Moving on to the fun, exciting part of the ride, the giant drop portion. The drop is 52.5 feet long. It's on a 47-degree incline, and you drop at a speed of 40 miles per hour.
That's pretty fast.
Which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Especially because you're not like buckled in or anything.
Yeah.
So every time I was a kid going on it, and I felt myself lifting up and got afraid.
You were.
It was for a reason, because it's terrifying when you're a child. In anticipation of its opening, Bear Country was renamed Critter Country to better represent the collection of critters that were to be housed there.
Not just bears.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And then as the grand opening grew near, the Imagineers kind of started to run into a few problems.
So the first was the log ride, the boats that you were in. I don't know what to call them. I guess it's just log boats. They were having trouble navigating the tighter turns in the ride, and they were getting stuck around corners. So to solve this, Imagineers had to create completely new log boats that would seat 6 people rather than the original 8 people, because they used to have 8 people
Yeah, they
on them.
whacked off.
Because that was a way to increase the capacity. They were like, "We'll put 8 people in these rides," but it just wouldn't work because they couldn't go around. Boats were getting stuck. They increased the risk of a collision, so they had to completely ditch the old boats and then reorder and remake new boats.
Yeah.
Which upped the price tag quite a bit.
We'll get there.
Yeah. So Splash Mountain had its grand opening on July 17th, 1989. But again, there was immediately an issue. Early riders, made up mostly of Disney executives and Imagineers, and just regular park goers, found that instead of being lightly splashed with water, getting like a refreshing mist.
You might want a poncho, but like you're all right. Yeah.
Yeah. They were getting completely drenched, and it was taking in giant waves and filling the boats up with water. So the log vehicles had to be completely redesigned. Again, they had to create less of a splash, so they made them 500 pounds lighter, and they redesigned the bottoms of the boats so that when they came crashing down, it wouldn't splash up as much. And that's what we have today.
Yes. I'm going to hop over to the live chat. Gigi said, I do not like that drop, especially because there's no seatbelt. I was so scared. I had no idea that was going to happen. Yeah. It's fun, but if you don't know and you're not buckled in.
Well, you lift right up. And then, like, as a kid, I was always, like, going down it. Like, I enjoyed the entire ride, but then going down, you come right out of the seat. So I was always like, how do people not fly out of the seat?
It's like roller coasters. Like, I always think roller coasters where you go upside down are actually less scary because you've got the straps here. Mm-hmm. So even though, yes, you go upside down or you go, very far to the side or whatever it is, it's not just a lap belt, so you feel more secure. You could hang on if you want to. Mm-hmm. So not having a seatbelt definitely ups the scare factor.
Yeah, it definitely did for me. Mm-hmm. So the final cost of the ride peaked at $75 million and ended up becoming one of the most expensive attractions Disneyland ever created at the time. Which is funny because one of the selling points originally was to save money by reusing animatronics.
Yes, when they were pitching this and when they were talking about this first, and
the Indiana Jones ride, they were like, it would
too
cost
expensive. It would be
way
crazy.
too much money. You cannot do that. Let's go with this more reasonable option.
Like a log ride. That doesn't sound like it would be expensive.
But I mean, it wasn't that they had like a ton of problems. It was mostly the log boats that they had to change and update and replace, but also the computer system in the ride. It just cost a lot of money, and they had to use it. I don't know if it was just more money than they anticipated it being, but it cost a lot, and that really added to the price tag. So you end up with the most expensive ride at the time.
It is funny because it seems like such a simple, sweet nostalgia.
Yeah, exactly. It seems like
it's a log boat.
It doesn't take
they
that
have log
much.
boats at zoos. They have log boats. They have log boats at random little places.
But the ride was it was an immediate mega hit, and it's become one of the most iconic rides of all the Disney parks. You can find it at Disney World and Magic Kingdom. You can find it at Tokyo Disney. They pretty much installed it almost immediately at both places because it was such a huge success.
Yeah, cult following. Tons of people collect merch. Mm-hmm. It's a popular ride. Pins.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. As far as updates and refurbishments, there really haven't been any, aside from like regular maintenance updates. The ride today is pretty much the exact same as when it opened. In fact, there is a YouTube video I found where it compares footage from 1994 of someone with a
camcorder,
They're filming it. And then footage from 2017, I think it was. Was it 2019? Anyway, very recent. And side by side, other than the only thing I noticed was like color differences. And I don't know if that's differences in the video cameras or if they just have better like blacklight technology. Like they may not have been using the same blacklight technology as they use now to make the brighter, more vibrant colors.
Oh, yeah.
So that may have been an update, but the majority of it exactly the same. Mm-hmm. I didn't see, so at the very end when you're about to crest the hill and Briar Fox has Briar Rabbit caught in his little hut, in his little lair area.
In his briar.
There's, I know like today there's like an animation that plays in the wall that's like, a shadow of of like his mouth and stuff. I couldn't see if that was in the ride in '94. I don't know if it was or not. I can't remember it from being a kid. So that may not have been there, but it's definitely is there now. So that may have also been another update.
Yeah.
But for the most part, everything's the same.
Yes. I'm
They
going to
haven't
hop over to the
changed
live
anything.
chat and ask a question. And that I'm mostly asking our friend Gigi because I feel like you might know Gigi. Is it Briar Patch? Briar Patch?
Briar
You say
Patch.
Briar Patch? Brr.
Briar Rabbit?
I know that there's two.
Briar Bird?
Like, I think one is like thorny, meadowy stuff.
Well, because it's the
And then
Briar
one-
Patch. So
Right, but I think
always
that there's
thought it was-
two. I think it's Briar and Brr. Brr. I think they're
It's like
different.
a colloquialism. I don't know.
Let us know if you know.
Anyway. Now we're going to move on to the fun fact lightning round.
I was ready.
Yeah.
Yeah, buddy. All right. The first attraction outside of Fantasyland to be based on an animated film is Splash Mountain.
Yep. So Fantasyland obviously had a lot of attractions and rides
Dumbo, Peter Pan.
based on
etc.
yeah,
Yes.
animated films. Outside of that, they didn't have any. So this was the first one, which is pretty cool. Kind of paying tribute to that era of Walt.
That's what we thought too, Briar, but it's not how it's spelled. There are two ways it is spelled,
Yeah,
and then
it's
there's like
BR''ER.
I think that's like the it's like that's the
Brr.
like the
Colloquialism.
slang. Yeah. Stop just saying that. Oh my gosh. But
Brr.
I think that that's that. But I do think that there is BRIAR, and then I think there's also like brr, like BREYER.
Brr Patch.
There's a couple ways, and I think they're two different things. Yeah, I'm not sure.
It's confusing.
Who knows? Okay,
Um,
Google knows.
So one interesting thing to point out is that this was all basically Tony Baxter's idea, and Tony worked closely with Mark Davis and a lot of the original Imagineers.
Yeah.
So he had that sense of like you have Walt, and then Walt inspired his Imagineers, and then those Imagineers did what they could to inspire the second generation of Imagineers.
And there was a lot of overlap with the first two.
Yeah, so with the second generation of Imagineers, you have them trying to pull that Walt inspiration because there was a disconnect. You know, after Walt was gone, a lot of people didn't know what to do. They weren't making a lot of rides or attractions based on Disney properties.
Yeah.
And there was, like, I wouldn't say a lack of inspiration, but it was just inspiration coming from different areas. So Tony was one of those guys who was really inspired by the original Imagineers, who were inspired by Walt, and he wanted to bring that into the parks during his time.
Yeah.
So basing it on something that came from Walt's time it was very purposeful on his part because he wanted to bring that, you know, livelihood and that happiness and that imagination back into the parks, where it had really not existed for a while in anything new. Anyway, it was there in a lot of the attractions that were there, but it wasn't there in anything new. So he wanted to bring that back, and so the fact that he drew from that movie is on purpose. You know, it is for a reason. Moving on. The mountain itself isn't actually a mountain at all. It's actually a hill called the Chickapin Hill, and it was designed after the place where Brer Fox and Brer Bear have their lair in the movie.
The Brer lair.
So when you look at the top of it, it's got like that log pointing out of it. Well, that's because in the movie itself, if you've never seen it, their lair is at the top of a hill, and it's got this log, like it looks like a log fell, and then like the earth grew around it. So they kind of like pop out of the top of the log, and their little house area is in the middle of it. So that's what it's based on. That's what it's styled after. So it's not even a mountain; it's just a really big hill, which is kind of funny because, you know, they made it really, really tall.
For our fun fact lightning round, I'm going to take it off the paper for a second. So, someone in the comments on live, Gigi, said that that she knows Briar Cliff and Briarwood. Actually, that's funny. I, growing up near Ann Arbor, Michigan, I worked at Briarwood Mall, and Briarwood Mall still exists. However, according to my Googling, briar is a thorny plant, a wild rose, or a briar can be a... and then I think it is like Brer is any amount of plants with thorny stems growing in dense clusters such as
Many
Let's
in the
see.
Rosa rubus and Smilex genera.
Yes. So
Smilex.
and it does look too, though, like it is definitely just basically thorny plants, thickets, things like that, and it can be just a pronunciation thing. And I'm sure
So
that
it's
some
like a regional difference.
oh yeah,
But yeah, briar.
tomato,
big
briar.
Interesting. Ask Google how to pronounce the other spelling.
Oh my gosh. Okay, if I keep looking down, it's because I am. I'm not ignoring any of you. All right, you do a next one. I'll look it up.
Okay, so originally there was going to be an owl narrator named Hoot Gibson, which I love that name.
Gibson.
And he had originally been designed by Mark Davis for the Western River Expedition. Now, think way back to Pirates of the Caribbean, which replaced the Western River Expedition at Disney World. Ooh. Brr.
Briar.
Briar.
So it's like instead of saying briar, it's like briar.
Briar.
I don't know. Oh my gosh. Okay, so that's that. Now let's look up. It's briar.
I'm gonna make that an alarm. Briar.
Briar pronunciation.
Oh
my God,
anyway,
I'm having too much
Hoot
fun with
Gibson
this.
was going to be part of the Western River Expedition. Now, obviously, that ride never happened.
Oh yeah, and then briar. It's gotta be okay. All right, he's done with me in this. All
So,
right.
he was going to be incorporated into Splash Mountain as a narrator. This was going to be a just direct callback to the work that Mark Davis had produced. Tony Baxter wanted to kind of give him like an homage.
Yeah.
But due to budget cuts, they couldn't incorporate this as an actual animatronic.
It would have been cool. I think it's
He's
so
still
much
there,
merch too.
You can still see him. He's at the beginning of the ride and at the end of the ride. He doesn't do anything, but he's there, so you can see him. He exists. Hoot Gibson. That sounds like a cop.
Any merch? Because I think that would be very popular. You know how people like things like a certain they like the dog with the key for pirates, or they like different things. So I wonder if there's any
The
merch.
goat with the dynamite or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. There might be. I like that though. Brer Rabbit is voiced by Jess Harnell, who was also the voice for Wacko Warner on Animaniacs, which I thought was interesting.
Which Animaniacs is not Disney. That's
That's
WB.
Brothers.
Yeah.
They lived in the Warner Brothers Tower, water tower. But yeah, that's cool. That's just a man of many voices who voiced a lot of our childhood, and he did the voice of Brer Rabbit.
Brer.
Our last fun fact is that staged photos are a fun subculture pastime of guests on Splash Mountain, posing in fun, interesting ways for the camera at the end of the ride. Because obviously, as you're going down the drop, you get a picture. And one super fun thing that people do is they stage photos.
Tons. Oh, there's so many.
So I knew this was a thing because it's something that I'd seen a clip montage of in college, and I knew it existed, but it just is something that keeps happening. So people will, and I don't know if they do it so much these days because I think they probably have cracked down on it because they're quit bringing stuff on the ride.
Do you remember when they used to have the little before PhotoPass and stuff when you go on a ride and if you I remember being teenagers and I never really did anything bad because I was not that daring or I wasn't going to cause trouble, but people did an obscene gesture or maybe were doing whatever they were doing, grabbing someone or whatever, I don't know, but they wouldn't let you buy it. I think in trouble.
Yeah, because you would exit the ride. Do you still see your picture when you exit the ride?
You can, you can still see your picture, but then you also, if you have PhotoPass or things like that, you can get it.
Yeah,
you can still see it.
Yeah, so but people will stage elaborate setups for
They're
the picture
awesome.
going down.
They're so good.
There's some people have a Monopoly board out and they're playing Monopoly. A lot of guys will just do funny faces or something.
Suits. They'll wear something extravagant. They'll have masks.
The Rock has a really good one. If you see Dwayne Johnson's photo, I don't know what year it's from, but he just looks awesome.
Yeah.
My favorite is this group of girls all brought milk jugs, they're empty, but milk jugs and bowls and cereal boxes. And they're all one's pouring milk and one's just eating cereal and the other one's just eating out of the box. And I don't know why, but it's my favorite picture. It's so funny.
We need to do a fun one. And yeah, if you're planning a trip, plan something fun. Nothing that would get you in trouble or cause upset to anyone, but definitely think of something fun to do.
Yeah, because these are really, really cool. I wish it was something that was more recent, where I found if I could find more recent photos of people doing this. But
yeah, if you have any, I know you can't show us, but comment. Let us know if you have it on Instagram or something like that. We would love to see it. That'd be so fun.
There's a lot of countdown lists online, so just look it up.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of funny ones.
Yeah, you'll be deep diving into a big rabbit hole.
Briar patch.
A
Briar
rabbit hole
of hilarious photos.
You guys are never gonna say briar brr the same again.
No, you will not. I don't think I will at all.
Think of it the same, yeah.
So, final thoughts on Splash Mountain. Splash Mountain showcases several things that Imagineers do incredibly well. The first is they breathe life into things that most people would just rather consider dead and move on from.
Yeah.
From drawing crowds into a section of the park that was once a ghost town, to celebrating characters and songs from a film that other companies would have done everything in their power to bury. Because who wants that kind of drama?
Yeah, I think, and they did it in such a nice way. Like such a, you know.
Yeah, and so like where some people see failure and controversy, Imagineers see the good and the joy and the possibilities in a thing. And that's something that is true throughout a lot of rides and a lot of things that they create. It also shows their ability to bring forward the extraordinary from the ordinary. Like we said, log flume rides were nothing new, and they definitely weren't anything to get excited about. It was just a quick drop. It's basically like a large big kid version of a slide, like we said. So it wasn't anything great, and obviously we said they weren't excited about it in the beginning. But when given the task of creating one, Tony Baxter and the other Imagineers created the most amazing log flume ride of all time. One so amazing that when you visit the park, it's one of the rides you have to go on at least once. Like, you have to go on this ride. You have to go on this ride. I don't know why you wouldn't. So, if you're visiting Disneyland or Disney World or Tokyo Disney, stand in line or fast pass Splash Mountain and experience one of the creations that make these places so magical.
Yes. Yes.
And that's Splash Mountain.
That's Splash Mountain, guys. That is Splash Mountain. We want to thank theliveplace.com. If you don't If you do not know, theliveplace.com, which I have linked in the description box, is an awesome website. Our friend Dean hosts it. He hosts a bunch of really amazing, family-friendly, and Disney streamers on there who have live shows, and there's a lot of really a lot of talented, really fun to watch people on there.
Yep, check it out.
Yep, we really appreciate him for hosting us, and we want to thank you for watching, participating, whether you're watching live with us, which is a ton of fun. Right now, we are on Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern time, or Walt Disney World time. So hang out. It's really fun to do it live, or we appreciate you watching the replay as well. Let us know if you're watching the replay, where you are watching from, and join us live next time. It would be a lot of fun. And speaking of participating, if there is a ride, attraction, party, anything like that from the parks that you would like to see us cover, you can get us on Instagram. I am at LeahTackles on Instagram. It's the easiest place to find me.
I am at Small World Shirts Co.
Yes. Co. Small World Shirts Co.
On Instagram.
And those are both linked in the description box. And hopping back over the live chat just for a second. The stare, though, Stefan, haha, too funny, and awesome deep dive as always. Thank you so much, Gigi. We're so glad that you joined in. We always love when you watch. It's so much fun. And thank you guys so much for watching. We hope that you have a magical day.
We'll see you real soon.
Bye, guys.
Good to be back.
Good to be back.
Woo!
Well, I was never gone. Bye!
Yeah.